Well, Gemma, that was a political earthquake, 9.5 at least on the Richter scale for the Middle East. An American president has just overturned 50, 60 years of bipartisan policy, of accepted policy in the US, policy accepted by the European Union, by Australia, for a two-state solution. The hope that what the United Nations decided in 1947-48 with the creation of Israel would lead to peace in the Middle East. It was extraordinary. I couldn't believe when he said, we will take over the Gaza Strip and we will own it. He's basically saying that the United States will unilaterally seize one of the most sensitive parts of the Middle East and just take it over. And when he was asked by somebody who will live there, he said the world's people will live there. It'll be the Riviera of the Middle East, an international, unbelievable place. Now, he's been building up to this, but what we just heard then, I think, will be studied in generations by historians, because if this goes ahead, I think it locks the United States and Israel into long-term conflict with the Arab world.
We'll repeat some of those comments that we heard from Donald Trump just now.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings.
So, John, there's always that question, are they off-the-cuff remarks or is this policy? But it was repeated over and over again. And not making that mistake again, that we've heard comments from Donald Trump and thought they were off-the-cuff remarks when indeed they were not.
That's right. He's clearly been thinking about this for some time. He's been letting out hints over the last few days. He says everybody he speaks to loves this idea. And it's interesting, we need to think how the Arab and Muslim world will think about this. In Israel, the right wing, the far right, will love this. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu said something very revealing there. He said that Donald Trump has taken this idea of moving Palestinians to a higher level, even than the right wing in Israel. And while he was speaking, while Donald Trump had made those comments, interesting to see a tweet on X by Itamar Ben-Gvir, who's one of the two leaders of the extreme right in Israel, saying, Donald, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Just to put that into perspective, who Donald Trump's appealing to here. Last year I was in Israel for Four Corners and we interviewed Ami Ayalon, the former head of Shin Bet, Israel Security Services. He described that man, Ben-Gvir, who is applauding so gleefully now Donald Trump. He said he's a terrorist. And Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister, talked about these messianic extremists of Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. This has even surprised the far right in Israel. I don't think they can believe, A, their luck, and B, that the American president would go this far. And to me, he was talking like, it was like a chief executive of a company announcing a takeover. That we are taking over BHP, or we're taking over this company. We are taking over Gaza. It's one thing, I suppose, when he said we will take over Greenland or we'll change the name from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. People guffawed a bit and Donald Trump Jr. went to Greenland and everyone had a bit of a laugh. And that sort of receded a bit. But to say I'm going to take over Gaza, and Americans go in there and essentially level it, clear it, and develop it into this Riviera. That's just theft of land. And for those two men in the Arab world and across the Middle East, they'll be looking at those two men. Let's have a quick look at the timeline here. 1947, the UN says, let's create the two states. There has to be a Jewish state alongside an Arab state. 1967, the war between Israel and its neighbours, the occupation of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank begins. Then the Israelis pull out of Gaza. And then we have October 7, atrocities by Hamas, in my view, war crimes. Then for 15 months, thousands and thousands of American bombs dropped by the Israeli army have led to this devastation and rubble. Now we have the two men standing side by side, Netanyahu clearly delighted, while Donald Trump says essentially, let's turn it into one of the world's largest and newest real estate developments. This is politics like we have never, ever seen before.